Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. This is a pretty exciting video for me and hopefully for you as well. Um, you probably have seen, if you've watched any of my videos where I do unboxings, a lot of the books that I've been collecting recently have been related to the Seduction of the Innocent. And the Seduction of the Innocent was a book that came out in the 50s, and it basically outlined a whole bunch of books that this psychologist thought was warping the minds of children. And basically that's the whole idea, that comics were seducing the innocent in terms of corrupting their morals and maybe making them less productive kids and making them, having all these problems and stuff. So, he had it from teaching them the wrong histories and having it from maybe teaching them how to read properly, to having them learn about, like, murder and crime and all this kind of stuff. So he thought that these comics were really destroying the minds of the youth of America. And he wrote a book. And this book is what I'm doing an unboxing of. So I'm gonna open it and we'll see. Hopefully it's the way that they sent it was not necessarily the best, but we'll see. Hopefully it arrives safely. So I'm gonna open it up. And the book that I got is a first print and first edition. And there's actually two variations to the first edition. I got the more common variation, and this is it, Seduction of the Innocent. And it has a nice plastic cover, dust jacket cover on it as well, so it's really good. Basically, there's two variations. One, which is the variation that I got, has like a section of it cut out. So what happened was, originally when they wrote this book, they included like a section of all the comic publishers that were mentioned inside. That it was basically a list of these are all the comic publishers that we have issues with, and they had basically like a appendix that you could, it would show you the whole list of all the people and all the comics that they had problems with. And what they realized is, hey, if they do that, they could get sued. So they removed it. So right off, once they got it published, they removed that section for most of the books. There were a few that were released before they made that realization. So it's very rare that you have it where there's that appendix added with the list of publishers that the book is making reference to. So I wish I had that variation, but the variation that I got is without that appendix. But if you see, I mean, there's not much to see to the book. You see, it's like very basic book. And you got, this is Wortham on the back. And that's the guy that basically changed comics forever, because he was the one that kind of led to the introduction of the Comic Code Authority. And inside, one sec here, my receipt. Inside, you have like pictures of some of the comics. So this is one of the more major ones, a Reform Schoolgirls. I don't have that. I'm looking for that comic. And you have like the different, it shows why were these comics so bad. And then you see like Phantom Lady. That's another one that I'm searching for. And these are all like, it gives you examples and it tells you the story why these comics are destroying the minds of kids. And it shows like how it impacted their IQs. it's like a whole bunch of things. And he gives lots of picture examples of how these comics were destroying the minds of youth. And there's actually some debate within the people that collect the Seduction of Innocent books. And they call it SOTI for short, SOTI. So if I say SOTI, that's really referring to any comics related to the seduction of the innocent. And there's some debate based on what comics are actually being mentioned in this book and which comics are not. So, for example, there was a few that were actually, even CGC had falsely labeled as being part of the comic book, as being SOTI books, comics, but they weren't. So there is that debate that happens, and CGC actually corrected itself later to remove certain comics from that list. Now the list is about 130 comics. I have one list which shows 125, but I've seen other lists where they've added a few more. But it's one of those things where it's a bit of a mystery because that appendix was removed. And people are not so sure what books are on the list and which ones are not. So there's like always like people trying to figure out, well, some of them are pretty obvious. It shows the cover. It's pretty obvious which comic that is. But some are not so obvious because he'll make like a little reference. And it could be like a line from the comic. And the thing is, the biggest problem is a lot of these comics that came out were reprinted. And sometimes Wortham was actually referring to the reprint rather than the original comic. So sometimes they include the reprint as the book, as the comic from SOTI. And other times they refer to the original as being the book from SOTI. So it's kind of interesting that there's this whole like debate and like investigation that's happening where people are trying to figure out which books were included in this book as comics that were destroying the minds of kids. Now, there were a lot of books that were not included in this that probably should have been, but weren't. But this is one of those books that, if you really are interested in this kind of whole time period, the golden age, the end of the golden age of comics, this is the kind of must-have book. And to get it as a first edition, is kind of cool. And this is a high grade, actually. It's in really good shape, to tell you the truth. And it's really interesting just flipping through it. I'm going to read this, obviously. I haven't read it yet. I plan to read this. And I actually might even read it from the book itself. I usually read everything digitally, but I might read this, actually, the book itself. So that'll be interesting. And it's a rather interesting. Just some of the pictures are pretty great. Like you can just see. Like I'm just gonna zoom in there so you can see some of the pictures that he included, and how these were warping the minds of kids. So it's really exciting to see this book in person and to finally have it in my collection. Because I mention it and I make references to it, but now to actually have the real book, it's kind of useful. Because, it is something as a collector of the SOTI, comics, it's really great to have it. So, yeah. So this has just been unboxing, very, limited unboxing, but a very major one in terms of my collection. Because now I have the guide for figuring out which books are inside of this collection that I'm going for, this SOTI collection. And it's really exciting. So I'm going to read more of this. And when I do future videos, when I get other comics from the SOTI collection, I'm going to be able to make that reference. That I'll say, hey, look, this is from page. I'll be able to say, hey, this is where I'm getting this information from. And it won't be just like secondhand information. It'll be from the actual book, which is kind of cool. So I hope this has been interesting. It's exciting for me. This is just a really cool book to have. And to have that first edition is always great. So, thanks for watching. And please comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. And check out my other videos. My other unboxings are much more exciting, maybe, because they have a lot more to show. But this one is exciting for me. So thanks for watching. Bye.